In today's video, I want to talk to you about 3 bass players that you may have not heard of that I think you should probably be paying attention to. Now, if you do a YouTube search for maybe the top ranking of bass players, you're probably going to see that most people have the same 3 to 4 different ones. Bass players like James Jamerson, Paul McCartney, Pino Palladino. And while I deeply do respect those bass players and their contributions to music, this video is not going to focus on those players, but players that maybe might be a little bit more obscure and that got me personally thinking differently about tone and feel and groove. Let's go ahead and kick it into the list. But first, I'm thinking we can go for a little drive and a little walk. Alright, you guys, coming in at number 3 for bass players you should be paying attention to is Nick Harmer from the band Death Cab for Cutie. Nick Harmer is a really interesting bass player in that he'll utilize a lot of repetitive melodies or repeating melodies in his bass playing. And what will happen is he'll pick that same loop and he'll play it over and over again, which is really interesting because it adds movement that falls into the subconscious while you listen. Oftentimes, the melodies are so, melodic that it will often become the actual hook of the song. I highly recommend checking out Summer Skin or I Will Possess Your Heart, where his bass playing builds tension. Often the drummer, Jason McGurr, will do a lot of the complexity in the beat, which, when it comes to Nick's playing, I found by listening that he typically will lock a lot in with the vocalist, Ben Gibbard, which I find interesting. I'm always thinking about as a bass player, what I should be doing to lock in with the kick drum, but how often do I ever think about how I'm locking in with the vocalist and how I'm making the vocal shine? I think that Nick Harmer does a great job at this. All right, coming in at number 2 for the bass player you should be paying attention to. You're probably not going to see this one coming because he's actually a jazz musician and he's a multi-instrumentalist, but his name is Charles Mingus. Charles Mingus is actually primarily an upright bass player. I don't play upright bass, and I don't know if many of you guys play or even listen to jazz, but I highly recommend listening to this guy. He was often coined as the angry man of jazz because of his hot temper. And one thing that I really like about Charles Mingus's playing is just sort of the attitude and the angst that he brings to bass. One thing that we talk a lot about as bass players is how to have good feel. And I think one thing that makes a really good song is a song that has a lot of rich emotions and complexity in how it makes us feel. I think that Charles Mingus does a bang-up job with this. In fact, I think that you should check out the song and off the self-titled album, Money Jungle. This album was done in collaboration with Duke Ellington, and in the studio while recording the title track, Money Jungle, you can kind of hear how they actually had a beef with one another, sort of that jazz musician ego clash. And you kind of hear him stepping all over what the piano's trying to do, and then Duke Ellington gets all upset too and starts trying to play over Charles Mingus. And I think that actually made for a way more interesting performance and a more memorable one. It's even said that after recording that song that Charles Mingus actually stormed out of the studio and started cussing people out. I'm not advising anybody actually do this ever. Good luck getting a gig ever again. But one thing that I do think is very interesting about Charles Mingus is his ability to convey deep emotion and complex narratives just in his playing alone. And as a bass player or a musician myself, that's something that I always strive for whenever I'm wanting to take a song and make it more interesting or more emotionally complex. All right, coming in at number 1 for bass players you should be paying attention to is the bass player Krist Novoselic. Anyways, you get the point. You can look him up. Here's the spelling. He is a bass player from the grunge rock Seattle-based band Nirvana. One thing that I really like about Krist's playing is that he's just really aggressive. I love the way he utilizes that aggression and also tone into his playing, and the way that he layers with the guitar playing that Kurt Cobain does. I think that it creates a really deep layered sound, and I think it's one of the reasons how you can take a trio and make it sound so big. I think that's how you can make any production sound really big, is just by doing good layering. And so, yeah, I definitely recommend you give him a listen. Songs that I really like by them are Drain You, Heart Shaped Box, Smells Like Teen Spirit, Come As You Are. Highly underrated as a bass player. So I highly recommend you check him out. All right, we're back here at my home, and I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. Are there any bass players that have informed your playing or that have influenced you? Go ahead and comment that down below. I'd like to hear what you all are listening to and maybe discover some new music. If you liked today's video, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. YouTubing is something that I've never really explored before, and I'd really like to get into it. And if you really like the video, go ahead and hit that bell notification button, and you'll get notified every time I upload a new video. So far, I'm hoping to do maybe like once a week or so. Finally, go ahead and check out the description box. I included links to all the music that we talked about today, including my band, Off the Coast. Give them a listen. I really hope you like them. And if you're watching this video, you probably have heard about the worship bass preset that I released maybe 15 days ago, not 15 years. And go ahead and check that out if you haven't. If you use an HX Stomp for your bass playing in church or when you gig, and you haven't checked out those presets yet, go check out my online store. I think you'll dig them. And I appreciate the support. We'll see you next time.